Hi there, friends. How's it going? I'm great, thank you. It's me, Teacher Ulrich, and today you are joining me to start a brand new lesson from Book 5 of Wordly Wise. So today, let's get started with Lesson 7. That's right, Lesson 7 from Book 5 of Wordly Wise. So today, in day 1, you will need word list 7. Today we will look at and talk about the different words we'll learn about today. Let's look at the words and talk about their different meanings. I want to remind you of the different kinds of words we get. There are nouns, which are name words. There are verbs, which are doing words. And there are adjectives too. Adjectives are words which tell you more about nouns. Adverbs are words which tell you more about verbs. So keep an eye out for those different meanings. The first word from Lesson 7's word list is colony. Colony. We can see here that colony has a noun meaning. N for noun. It actually has 2 noun meanings. So friends, these meanings given in these word lists are not all the meanings available for these words. So if you would like to study more about these words, you will find more meanings in a dictionary. Try to use Oxford Dictionary. So these meanings are only given for these lessons. So today we will only focus on the given meanings, right? So the first noun meaning for colony is the name of a group of people, animals, or plants living close together. A colony, right? People, animals, or plants living close together, a group of them. We found a colony of ants in the yard. Here we can see a colony of ants. They're ants who live together in the same nest. The second noun meaning for colony is the name of a group of people who settle in a new land and have legal ties to the country they came from. So this is tricky. There were many colonies a couple hundred years ago. English people formed a colony at Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. So people from England moved to America, Jamestown, and they lived together there. So that's an English colony. I am in South Africa. I know I'm white, right? I'm European. Why am I here? Because many years ago, people from Europe started a colony in South Africa. And look, I'm still here. So those are the 2 meanings of colony. Next up, it's compensate. Compensate. Compensate has 2 verb meanings. So verbs are doing words, right? The first verb, which means compensate, is to make up for, to be equivalent to. My parents gave me another bike to compensate for the one that was stolen. So to compensate means to make up for, to be equivalent to. So to compensate for his stolen bicycle, his parents gave him another one to make up for it. The second verb is to pay for. Our student council voted to compensate the students who help clean up the lunchroom. See, if you do work, you want to be compensated for it. If you are being compensated for the work you do, you are being paid for it. It's always good to be compensated for the work you do. You can ask, will I be compensated for this work? That means, will I be paid for this work? Compensation is another form of the word. Compensation has a noun meaning. Compensation is the name of the payment to make up for something. His compensation for the work was $300. Isa received $10,000 as compensation for injuries she suffered when her bike fell apart. So she received $10,000 for what? As a compensation for injuries when her bike fell apart. Next up, it's deposit. Deposit, we can see here, has two verb meanings. So these two meanings are verbs. And we can see it has two noun meanings. So these two meanings are nouns. The first verb meaning for deposit means to lay down. The hikers deposited their backpacks on the porch. They laid it down. So if you lay down your backpack, you deposit it. The second verb meaning means to put money in a bank account or to give as partial payment. If you deposit money, you put it into the bank account. If you have cash, you can go to the bank to deposit it in your account. Then you can swipe your card, right? You can make a deposit. Sign your name on the back before you deposit the check. The noun meaning for deposit is the name of something laid down. The flood left a deposit of stones on the riverbanks. If a lot of people deposit their backpacks on one place, we call that a deposit of backpacks. The second noun meaning is the name of money put into a bank account or given as partial payment. For a $20 deposit, the store will hold the winter coat. So a deposit is the name of something, a partial, so just a part of the payment for something. If you go to rent a bicycle, you have to pay a deposit. So, if you break the bicycle, you do not get your deposit back. But if you bring the bicycle back, then you get your deposit back. Have you ever rented a bicycle or something like that, where you had to pay a deposit? Usually, when you have an app where you rent bicycles, then you have to pay a deposit of like $200 on the app. So if you steal a bicycle or if you break a bicycle, you won't get your deposit back. But if you don't, you can get it back. Deposit. Next up, it's fascinate. Fascinate has a verb meaning. So to fascinate means to attract, to strongly hold the interest of. The circus clowns fascinated the children in the audience. See, this boy is fascinated by what he is seeing. What do you find fascinating? I find shows about nature, TV shows about nature, fascinating. Shows about nature fascinate me. Fascinating is a different form of this word. Fascinating has an adjective meaning. This word we use to describe nouns which are extremely interesting. I saw a very fascinating movie. David is a very fascinating person. See, fascinating describes the noun. The museum has a fascinating display of Native American crafts. See, display is the noun. So fascinating describes the noun. It tells you more about it. What about the display? Was it boring? Was it nice? Was it bad? It was fascinating. Very interesting. What is something that you find fascinating? I find fascinating. Use that sentence. Feeble. Next is feeble. We can see that feeble has 1, 2 adjective meanings. Remember that adjectives tells you more about the noun. So the first adjective meaning means having little strength or weak. Lions prey on the most feeble zebras in the herd. So lions hunt the weak zebras, the feeble zebras. The second adjective meaning for feeble, we use this word to describe nouns which are not very believable or satisfying. Henry gave the teacher a feeble explanation for being late to class. His watch was broken. So a feeble explanation is not a believable one, not a satisfying one. Today I saw a pig fly. That is a very feeble story, right? Not believable. So feeble can mean weak, so lack strength, or not believable. Next up, it's formal. Formal, we can see, has 1, 2 adjective meanings. The first adjective, formal, means following rules or customs, often in an exact and proper way. The president gave a formal dinner at the White House. So this means to follow the rules or customs. So in the West, a formal dinner would be you eat with a knife and fork. And you eat in a very specific way. Your elbows cannot touch the table. You have to sit upright. You cannot touch the food with your hands. You cannot eat big bites of food. You have to be formal, following the rules or customs, right? What are the rules or customs to a formal dinner in your culture? The next meaning for formal is suitable for events where strict standards of dress and behavior are expected. So if it's a formal party, you have to dress like this. You have to wear a suit and tie. On an invitation you will see the dress code. If it's casual, you can wear whatever you want, casual. If the dress code is formal, that means you have to wear a suit, a black suit, and a tie. Women have to wear a nice dress. It's very formal. Have you ever been to a formal party? I don't like it that much. Ming wanted a formal dress for the fancy party. Formal. Next, it's frigid. Frigid has 2 adjective meanings. The first adjective for frigid, we use this word to describe very cold. The morning air was so frigid that her mom's car would not start. See? The morning air, that's the noun. What about it? It was frigid. So frigid describes a noun. Frigid means very cold. The weather is very frigid. It's very cold. The second meaning for frigid is lacking a warm manner, unfriendly. So this is how people are. They're frigid. The frigid greeting we received made it clear that we were not welcome. Hi. Hello. That's a very frigid welcome. Lacking in a warm manner. Hello, welcome, so nice to see you. That's not frigid. Hi. That is frigid. It's unfriendly. Next up, it's harsh. Harsh, we can see, has 1, 2, 3 adjective meanings here. The first adjective meaning for harsh means rough and unpleasant to the senses. In a harsh tone of voice, the farmer ordered us to stay away from the cows. See, he is very harsh. It's very unpleasant to the senses. Remember, your senses are your sight, hearing, taste, smell, and feeling, right? So if something is harsh, it's not nice to look at, it's not nice to hear. His harsh tone, he's yelling. The second adjective meaning for harsh means causing pain, cruel. My brother's harsh words hurt me deeply, and he later told me he was sorry. So if someone is harsh, they're very nasty. You are so fat and ugly and short and stupid. Oh, that's so harsh. Those are very harsh words. It hurts my feelings. It causes pain. The third meaning for harsh means not suitable for living things. Extremely uncomfortable. Northern Canada's harsh climate keeps people from settling there. Mars is a very harsh planet because it's not suitable for living things. The desert is a very harsh place to live. It's not suitable for living things. Harsh. Next up, it's huddle. We can see here that huddle has 1, 2 verb meanings and 1 noun meaning. The first verb, huddle, means to crowd together. Make a huddle. Crowd together like this. When the downpour began, we all huddled under an umbrella, so they crowded together under the umbrella. The second verb meaning means to curl one's limbs up close to one's body. To huddle up is to curl up in a ball. During their first night at camp, Alaya, I think, and Inez huddled under the thin blankets to keep warm. To huddle is to make your body into a little ball. The noun meaning huddle is the name of a closely packed group. This is a huddle. So this verb meaning and noun meaning are closely related. If you make a huddle, then you do the verb. Then after you've made a huddle, it's called a huddle. That's the noun meaning, the name of it. Next, it's remote. Remote has 1, 2, 3, 4 adjective meanings. The first adjective, which means remote, is a word we use to describe nouns which are far away in time or space. So they're far away. The trail took them through a remote region of the Amazon rainforest. A remote region, that's a far away region. This is a remote island It's an island that's very far away from everything else, a remote island. The second meaning means slight of faint. Slight or faint means very little. There was only a remote chance of reaching our destination on time. Slight or faint, remote, means a small chance, little. There was only a remote chance of reaching our destination on time. There are no clouds in the sky. There is a remote chance of rain, a very small chance. The third meaning means controlled indirectly or from a distance. The thing you use to change the channels on the TV is called a remote, because you can control it from a distance. A remote-controlled car is one you control with a remote from a distance. Dad told us to do a better job of sharing the television remote control. The third meaning is distant in manner. The store clerk seemed very remote and hardly looked at us when we asked for help. So if someone seems distant, the way they don't want to talk to you, they want to stay away from you, then they are remote. Next up, it's resemble. Resemble. Resemble is a verb. It means to be like or similar to. This is a very famous chef, Gordon Ramsay. This is his son. They have resembling features, right? They look a little bit the same or similar. The son resembles his father. The markings on the wings of the moth resemble the eyes of a small animal and help protect it from becoming prey. Resemble. Who do you resemble? Do you resemble your dad or your mom? Do you look similar to your dad or your mom? I don't resemble any of my parents. I look totally, there is no resemblance. Next up, it's rigid. Rigid. If something is rigid, it has two adjective meanings. The first meaning is a word we use, so we use rigid to describe nouns which are stiff and unbending, not flexible. Steel pipes are very rigid. They're very stiff and unbending. You can't bend them. Rubber pipes are not very rigid. You can bend them. The frozen rope was as rigid as a stick, so it was very stiff. The second adjective meaning means strict, not easily changed. Your teacher can be very strict. If you talk again, you will not go home early. Okay, you spoke, you won't go home early. That is very rigid, very strict, not easily changed. The school has a rigid rule that students must wear uniforms. The school that I went to had this rule, a very rigid rule. You had to wear the correct uniform. Even if you wore a different kind of sock, they would send you home. You had to wear the school socks. They were very rigid. Next up, it's solitaire. Solitary. Solitary has two adjective meanings. First, solitary is a word we use to describe nouns which like being alone, lacking the company of others. This boy is very solitary. He's alone. In the 19th century, lighthouse keepers often led solitary lives. So very alone. The second meaning means being the only one. Being the only one. A solitary elm grew in the middle of the field. It's a tree. A solitary tree is a tree which grows alone. There are no other trees around it. A solitary animal is an animal that lives alone. I can't think of a snake is a solitary animal. They don't live in big groups. They like to live alone, solitary. The next word is substantial. Substantial has two adjective meanings. So we use substantial to describe nouns which are strong and solid. The chair is not substantial enough to support the weight of an adult, so it's not strong enough. Strong and solid. This house is built very substantial. It's very strong. The second adjective meaning is a word we use to describe nouns which are great in value or size. Great in value or size. Remember that. Value means how much it costs. I received a substantial increase in my allowance because I agreed to do more chores. So this person received a great increase. So if he got 1,000, now he got 2,000. That's a substantial increase in his allowance. This is a substantial amount of food for one person, right? It's a great amount, big in size, a substantial amount of food. If I give you a plate of food, I can ask you, is that food substantial? Is it enough? Is it big enough? Substantial. The final word is waddle. Waddle has two meanings, a verb meaning and a noun meaning. The verb waddle is a way you walk. To waddle is to walk with short steps, swaying from side to side. A penguin waddles. See, they walk with short steps and they move from side to side. Waddle. The duck left the pond and waddled toward us. It's a way you walk. The noun meaning for waddle is the name of an awkward, clumsy walk. So these two meanings are closely related. They mean the same thing. The baby smiled excitedly as he ended his waddle across the room. Great. Friends, and that's it for today's lesson. Well done, and thanks for joining me to start Lesson 7. Today we looked at the 15 words for word list 7 and we spoke about their different meanings. It's important for you to practice these words and meanings by yourself. Remember to also join me for the next class in day 2. You will need to bring along word list 7 and activity 7a from your Wordly Wise book 5. So remember to bring your word list 7 and activity 7a for our next lesson. Friends, until then, take care and goodbye. I'll see you next time. Bye, friends.